You ever end a long day, completely exhausted, and still feel like you didn't actually move your life forward? I know that feeling more than I'd like to admit. You wake up early. You check your phone. You respond to messages, emails, maybe even work before breakfast. Then the day just runs. You're solving problems. You're doing tasks. You're staying productive. And by the time the night comes, you've been busy for 10, maybe 12 hours. But here's the uncomfortable part. When you sit with yourself for a second, there's this quiet question in the background. Why does my life still feel the same? Same financial stress. Same uncertainty. Same feeling of being slightly behind. It's confusing, right? Because you're not lazy. You're not careless. You're actually trying. So why doesn't it feel like progress? Most people think the path to wealth is simple. Work hard. Stay busy. Be productive. And eventually, things will improve. That belief is everywhere. It's in the way we were raised. It's in the advice we hear. It's in the culture around us. Busy equals good. Rest equals lazy. More effort equals more results. But here's the truth most people never say out loud. Being busy and building wealth are not the same thing. Not even close. In fact, sometimes they move in completely different directions. You can spend years being incredibly busy and still feel financially stuck. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you're playing a game that rewards activity, not progress. And those two things feel similar on the surface. But underneath, they're completely different. I remember a point in my life where I was doing everything right. Working long hours. Taking on extra responsibilities. Always available. Always responsive. If you looked at my schedule, it looked impressive. But if you looked at my bank account, or my level of peace, it didn't match. And that disconnect is what started to bother me. Because effort was there. But results? Not really. And that's when I started asking a different kind of question. Not, how can I be more productive? But, what am I actually building? And if that question feels uncomfortable in a strangely honest way, you might find this channel useful. Not for quick answers, but for thinking about money in a way most people don't. Let's slow this down for a second. Because this isn't about working less. It's about understanding what your work is doing. Being busy usually means this. You're reacting to messages, to deadlines, to expectations, to other people's priorities. Your day is full. But it's not always intentional. You're moving. But not necessarily in a direction you chose. And that's where the trap is. Because busyness gives you a sense of progress. You feel useful. You feel needed. You feel productive. But feelings don't always reflect reality. Building wealth, on the other hand, looks very different. It's slower, less visible, sometimes even boring. Because wealth isn't built through constant motion. It's built through leverage, ownership, and consistency over time. And those things don't always feel like hard work in the traditional sense. Here's something most people don't realize. We stay busy, not just because we have to, but because it feels safe. Think about it. If your entire day is filled with tasks, you don't have to think too deeply. You don't have to confront bigger questions like, am I on the right path? Is this actually leading somewhere? Why does this still feel unstable? Busyness protects you from uncertainty. It gives structure. It gives immediate feedback. It gives small wins. You finish a task, you feel good. You respond to a message, you feel productive. But wealth doesn't reward you immediately. It rewards patience. Delayed gratification. Decisions that don't always feel good today. And that's uncomfortable. So naturally, most people lean toward what feels rewarding now. Even if it doesn't build anything long-term. Imagine two people. Both work hard. Both are disciplined. Both want a better life. The first person fills every hour with activity. They take extra shifts. They say yes to everything. They're constantly on. The second person still works hard. But they're more selective. They spend time learning skills that can increase income. They look for ways to create something that doesn't depend on their time. They think about ownership, not just effort. At first, the first person looks more impressive. They're busier. They're more active. They seem more driven. But over time, something shifts. The second person starts to gain leverage. Their income isn't tied directly to every hour. Their decisions start compounding. Their stress slowly decreases. And the first person, still busy, still working, still tired, but not necessarily moving forward. If there's one concept that separates busyness from wealth building, it's leverage. Leverage simply means getting results that are bigger than your direct effort. It's when your time isn't the only thing producing value. This could be through skills that pay more for the same time, assets that generate income, systems that work even when you're not actively working. But here's the catch. Leverage usually takes time to build. And during that time, it doesn't look impressive. You might be learning, experimenting, trying things that don't work immediately. And compared to someone who's constantly busy, you might even feel like you're falling behind. But you're not. You're just playing a different game. We've been taught to optimize our days. Wake up earlier. Plan better. Do more in less time. And those things can help. But they can also distract you from a deeper truth. Being efficient at the wrong thing doesn't move your life forward. You can optimize a routine. That leads nowhere. You can become incredibly productive at maintaining the same level of stress. And that's the danger. Because productivity feels like progress. But it's not always connected to outcomes that actually matter. At some point, I stopped asking, how can I get more done today? And started asking, what will still matter from what I do today, a year from now? That question changes everything. Because it forces you to think beyond activity. It forces you to think about direction. And direction is what determines whether your effort compounds or just resets every day. This is where things started to click for me. Wealth isn't built by how hard you work today. It's built by what your work turns into over time. Let that sink in for a second. Because it changes the way you see everything. If your effort disappears the moment you stop, you're staying busy. If your effort continues to create value, even after you're done, you're building something. And that realization is uncomfortable at first. Because it makes you question a lot of what you're doing. But it's also freeing. Because it gives you a new lens. A way to evaluate your time, not by how full your day feels, but by what it's actually producing. And if this shift in thinking feels different, like it's giving you language for something you felt but couldn't explain, that's really what this space is for. Not more noise. Just clearer ways to think about money, time, and direction. So what does this actually look like in real life? It's not about quitting your job. It's not about extreme risks. It's not about overnight changes. It's quieter than that. It's noticing how much of your day is reactive, and slowly creating space for intentional work. It's asking yourself, is there something I'm doing today that could still benefit me later? That might mean learning a skill, building something small, understanding how money actually works, saving, even when it feels insignificant. It won't feel dramatic. In fact, it might feel underwhelming. But that's the nature of real progress. It doesn't always feel like progress while it's happening. There's also something else we don't talk about enough. Being constantly busy is exhausting in a very specific way. Not just physically, but mentally. Because you're always on. Always responding. Always catching up. Always trying to keep things together. And over time, that creates a kind of quiet anxiety. A feeling that if you slow down, everything might fall apart. But building wealth, done properly, moves you in the opposite direction. Toward stability. Toward control. Toward space. Not immediately, but gradually. And that difference matters more than most people realize. So if you've been feeling stuck lately, even though you're working hard, even though you're doing your best, it might not be a motivation problem. It might not even be a discipline problem. It might just be that no one ever showed you the difference between being busy and actually building something. And once you see that difference, you can't really unsee it. You start to move differently. Not faster. Not louder. Just, more intentionally. And that's where things begin to change. Not overnight. Not dramatically. But steadily. And that kind of progress is the kind that lasts. If this way of thinking feels calmer, a little more grounded than what you're used to, then you'll probably feel at home here.